Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get 2 free audiobook downloads and a 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/footballisamerica. Over 150,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, iPad, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. For the listeners of the Football is America podcast, Audible is offering 2 free audiobooks and a free 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Books from all genres and walks of life right into your ears. The Hobbit by Tolkien, Divergent by Veronica Roth, Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak, and Always Looking Up, The Adventures of an Incurable Optimist by Michael J. Fox. To download your free selections today, go to audibletrial.com/footballisamerica. Again, that's audibletrial.com/footballisamerica, or go to footballisamerica.com and click the banner on the homepage.
Hey everyone, this is Ron from Football is America, and we are inviting you to check out our website, footballisamerica.com. Catch up on all the shows and interviews right there.
We really would appreciate it if you check this out. We've had a lot of work put into it. We're very proud of our product. We really, really need you to get on there. Take a look at our links. Get on our GoFundMe if you got some spare cash you can throw at us. Check out our Amazon links. Check out our Audible links. We've got so many great things to give to you. Use that Amazon search bar when you're going to be buying on Amazon. It doesn't cost you anything extra. It'll take you right to the Amazon page as if you had searched through Amazon itself, because it is Amazon itself. It just helps us out when you come to make your purchase, and no extra effort is required on your part.
Yeah, a reminder that we do all of this for free, but it, unfortunately, is not free to do. So anything you can do to help us out would be great. Don't forget to also keep commenting, sending us those tweets, those emails, those Facebook comments, or berate us on Reddit. Without your interaction, we can't fix what you think is wrong or keep what is right. Let us know how we are doing, and you can always just get on there and tell Keil he is horrible hellspawn and needs to go back to his creator, Lucifer.
I prefer to think of Mondo Jesus as my creator, but to each his own. We won't know until you hit that comment button. Get on there. Give us your thoughts, your opinions, your ideas. We really enjoy hearing them. I might berate you for it, but that doesn't mean we're not all having fun.
That's right. Hey, enjoy the show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Football is America with Ron and Keil. I'm Ron.
I am Keil. Mike is unable to join us today. He is doing duty or whatever, something about Navy and a boat. So we have with us today, big treat. We have Larry from Chicago Bear Review. Great to have him on again. Very happy to have him back. Larry, thanks for joining us, man.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So how's the show been going, Larry?
Oh, it's that quiet period of the off season. I mean, it's obviously going to pick up here for the next couple weeks with the draft and everything. But as far as putting shows out, I usually kind of hit the milestones in the off season with free agency, the draft, and then when the schedule comes out, I'll do a show for the schedule release, and then we probably won't hear much from me until the summer when I start previewing the 2015 opponents.
All right. Well, I mean, I had a chance to listen to the most recent one where you're talking draft and stuff, and thankfully you eased my mind on some of the Mariota stuff, because I was kind of freaking out about it. So
yeah, that wasn't me that did the easing, because I was the same as you. When you guys had me on the first time, I was dead set against us picking Mariota, but it was Scott Wright from draftcountdown.com that kind of talked me off the ledge, if you will. So I'm not 100% with it. I'm not 100% against it, but it's just, I'm not going to completely freak out and start trashing furniture if the Bears end up making the move for Mariota. So
I do find it interesting that both of you guys were like at that advanced level of worried, because Ron was like really worried. Like I had to talk him down off a ledge a little bit one day. He'd been like comment warring on Facebook, and someone he knows is from Oregon and then has that weird unrealistic bias for Mariota. And I of course have to like add a little gas onto the fire before I can make it better, so
Well, my worry, and I even said this on the show with Scott, was that it has more so to do with the history of first round draft picks for the Bears. That almost never works out. Like you get more Mike Browns and Charles Tillmans from the second and third round. Like we got Lance Briggs in the third round, guys like that. Then we do Brian Urlachers and Kyle Longs. That's a very short list on we picked this person in the first round and 5 years later, they're still wearing a Bear uniform. That is a very, very short list. But guys that we take in like second, third, and fourth round, those guys are the ones that tend out to be lifetime Bears.
I definitely am with you right there. And
Christ, that's depressing.
I know, man, right? It is.
That's why I didn't freak out when the Bears gave up 2 first-round picks to get Cutler. I remember talking to my best friend. It's like, hey, dude, we gave up 2 first-round picks. That's okay, because our first-round picks always suck.
Yeah, that's so true.
And the other word,
that's why all the Bears fans were so okay with like the Colts trading for Trent Richardson. They're like, what? It's a first rounder. It's no big deal. It's fine. Why? What's the problem?
First round pick. No big deal.
Yeah, well, Kyle never lives down the Trent Richardson thing, so.
No, at this point, I've just wrapped it around me like a blanket and just,
Well, my other buddy, best friend is a season ticket holder to the Colts. So we've had many discussions about Trent Richardson.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Well, okay, did he start out positive, though?
He did. We both did, because we were like, Jesus, the Browns are stupid.
That's what everybody thought.
They just gave Trent Richardson away. They're like 2 games into his second season. And he was injured part of his rookie season. So he hasn't even played a full season for the Browns yet. And they're giving up on him already. They're out of their minds. But it turns out Cleveland turned out to be the smart one in that deal.
Yeah, definitely.
The part that got me was, like you said, it's like, oh, wow, this dude's so injured that he has to sleep sitting up. And he's still amazing. All right, yeah. Okay, so they let him go. All right. That should have been a warning flag that they were even willing to let him go.
Yeah.
But, whatever. And then the part I like is Chudzinski was the head coach that traded him away. And then he shows up the next year for the Colts. Like, hey, remember me? I'm the reason you were gone, jackass.
Yeah.
Like, that's gotta be hard to have that dude in the meeting rooms and not being able to stab him.
Right.
So we have very little news really to go over. We're going to get here to some Aaron Hernandez stuff, a couple of player retirements, go over some Steelers stuff, probably get into this crazy thing that happened with the Lions and the Bucks this last week or so. Definitely going to be talking about the Tim Tebow thing that just happened tonight. So we're going to be talking about that.
Unbelievable.
And got some Adrian Peterson news or opinion for the most part, and then also going into the Rivers trade stuff. So we have not necessarily a full docket, but we have some fun topics. So let's go ahead and get started here. Is everybody ready for news time?
Sure, let's do it.
I'm ready. You're afraid of how ready I am.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story.
All right, so Aaron Hernandez is a now convicted murderer. Trial ended. Jurors calling Robert Kraft's testimony compelling. Defense gives away the conviction pretty much. The prosecution barely had a case. Lots of news here, lots of opinions, lots of just really strange things that happened during the trial. Kyle and Larry, what are your guys' opinions on it?
Surprisingly enough, I paid attention to quite a bit of this. I was schooling Ron, and Ron's basically a lawyer. I mean, as a lawyer and accountant, we assumed for a while that Ron was Jewish, and then he set us straight by, eating bacon. That was the only way that he was able to put that one to bed. That, and he talked a lot of smack on Sandy Koufax. So, I mean, that's a 1-2 that no Hebrew can handle. But with the Robert Kraft thing, the jurors are like, okay, he tells Kraft, I was still in the club when Odin got murdered. All right, how did you know when he got murdered? The police don't know the exact time. And for the defense to say, hey, he was there, he saw his 2 buddies ice this guy who's his best friend and his weed connection and dating his fiance's sister, so they could have been brothers-in-law and all that. As a gamble by the defense that really... I don't know how you could have done any worse than do that, because the jurors essentially said, like, look, we kind of knew he's guilty just by looking at him because he's a butthole, but you can't prove it. And so we're not going to find him guilty. And then the defense is like, oh yeah, he was way there. It's like, but so these two guys murder a dude and then you're going to leave your like toddler child alone with them for 30-minute stretches. No, that's not how life is if you weren't at least complicit. So now he gets to go to a prison that is a mile away from the Patriots Stadium with nothing in between it to mess up the acoustics. So good for you, buddy. You get to hear it on Sundays.
Yeah, I hope they give him a window seat too.
You know that there's going to be some sadistic jackass who's like, of course we're putting him on that side. Why would we not? That's the most hilarious way to do this.
Absolutely.
It's funny.
Do you guys know if they were able to recoup some of the money that they paid to him yet? I haven't heard a whole lot about that yet, because he got like $40 million.
Well, I think like only part of that was like 11 or 12 million of that was guaranteed.
They specifically structured his contract with the understanding that should he ever get into any disciplinary action, all of his finances would be recovered by the team. So if you get into a hypothetical scenario where that money went into a bank account and then it got transferred to the Wind and all that, all right, now any of his assets that are not liquid go back to the Patriots. So they would be able to repo the house and his car and all those various things. I mean, it's a legal document that he signed, and like, I don't think Robert Kraft is going to take the food out of this, toddler's mouth. I mean, he's going to wait until she can put up a fight to do that. So it's not going to happen right away, but they're going to get their money back.
I know that this has been going on for a really long time, but this is just another glimpse into what the NFL has kind of become. And I know that has a lot to do with the whole information age and being able to grab anything at your fingertips at any moment, no matter what. But does it not seem to you guys that the NFL just seems to be full more and more and more with guys that are just problem people or troublemakers or criminals or however you want to label it? It just seems like we're getting more and more, whether you're talking about Aaron Hernandez or Greg Hardy or Ray McDonald or Darren Sharper or LaTroy Guion, that whole thing where he had a whole bunch of drugs and cash. I mean, it just, I don't understand. First of all, a lot of times what guys are thinking, I didn't grow up in that kind of lifestyle, so I don't know, so I'm ignorant to that fact. But I guess my common sense has always taken over for me.
Well, I think the other thing that we need to keep in mind is that these guys, though they're extraordinary athletes and they're in the spotlight, they're also people. And they're human beings, and human beings do stupid things and they make mistakes. And everything. So I don't think it's so much a reflection of the NFL as it is, just society in general, not to get too philosophical here, but it's just, these guys make the headlines because they are who they are. And, something that actually, in a lot of ways, I think maybe being in the NFL makes it easier for them to do stuff like that because they think that they're, above the law, or that it's more accessible to get themselves into these kind of trouble. I mean, Aaron Hernandez is a perfect example. This is a guy that basically skirted by, even though the red flags and the, all that stuff was there. It got ignored by his high school coach, by Urban Meyer in Florida. They kind of looked the other way in New England until he finally went ahead and did something that couldn't be overlooked.
And that's a very good point. I mean, we all think, well, once you get that money, you can walk away from that lifestyle. And the Aaron Hernandezes are the weird ones who enjoy it. A lot of these guys, they grow up with this mentality of you have to be feared and respected. So when you've got money, the guys from your old crew are going to respect you. I mean, because now you're paying the bills. That's fine. But you don't necessarily want guys who are going to hang out with you. They're going to be like, hey, man, that guy cut you off. It's fine. Just let it go. They can be like, dude, are you going to let him get away with that? You're Aaron Hernandez. Go kick his ass. And that's where a lot of these guys go. They want people to encourage that destructive side and make them feel powerful.
My problem is the fact that they actually go ahead and do it and don't look at, and then common sense, that's where it goes out the window, because common sense would have you think, this stupid thing, no matter what it is, could cost me everything. It could cost me my reputation, which could damage things, years and years down the line. And these guys go ahead and they do it anyway because they're thinking in the moment and not thinking, not even a week into the future where their face is going to be all over SportsCenter for the next summer.
My resolution for this, and my idea, I guess, would be You kind of treat it like the way that the military treats it. And I know that that's not a perfect system, but technically it works. If you are a player who has had issues where you've been convicted of a felony, a major one, whether it be domestic violence, abuse, you've robbed a liquor store at some point in your life, or whatever, no matter what it is, you shouldn't be allowed to play in the NFL. In the United States military, you're not allowed to serve after that. If you have major drug use problems, if you have major alcohol-related incidents, DUIs, or anything like that, you shouldn't be allowed to play anymore. For one, you're setting a bad example for future NFL players, and you are also damaging the brand.
Well, I don't think the NFL is all that concerned with that. What with the guy who's likely to go number 1 overall in the draft, pretty much, I think we can all say there's too much evidence to say that he definitely did not rape a girl while he was at college. You can't say he definitely did, but when an investigation gets messed up that badly, it doesn't do anything to clear the air, and nothing's being made of it. Everyone's like, no, we're not worried about that. It's like, you're not worried about a potential rapist going first overall? Like, that's kind of bad.
Yeah.
Now, one thing nobody's talking about, because they don't have the clairvoyant space brain necessary to read between the lines and see that the lizard people are behind it like I have, but there's one thing everybody is aware of. Aaron Hernandez mouthed to the jurors, "You're wrong." So I went back, I reviewed the evidence, okay? So I'm going to tell you what really happened. Ron, you are going to try and stop me. I'm going to tell you, go right to hell. I will speak the truth. Tom Brady did it. Oh yeah. Don't worry. I'm going to go ahead and unwrap this present, everybody. So here's how it went down. How does it go? Oh, we're going to go ahead and kill this guy. Why? Because Adrian Peterson. How? What? Okay, Odin Lloyd. Odin, patron god of the Vikings. Adrian Peterson of the Vikings. Dude murdered on Father's Day. Adrian Peterson suspended for fatherly negligence. So now Adrian Peterson will become a New England Patriot. Tom Brady orchestrated it. Aaron Hernandez took the fall, and that is wrong. That is not my America, Bill O'Reilly.
Wow, dude. Just wow. That I think Larry left. I think he quit. I think he's like, you know what? Nope. I made a mistake.
Yeah, I think
that maybe he's just stunned because his eyes are open to the truth.
This is Larry. How you're feeling right now?
I feel like I'm way over my head here, guys.
No. This is.
He did not show this level of insanity during my interview. That did not happen. I didn't think this is what I was getting. This is not how you spend a Sunday night, fellas. You just don't do it this way.
Just whatever you're feeling right now, Larry. I deal with this daily.
Yeah,
I deal with this every second of the day. This is just normal how my brain works. You think I want to make these connections? I don't. I got a 4-year-old in the other room eating pizza. I'm the only one responsible for her, and society is allowing that to happen. We have a problem.
All right, well, let's move on. Ike Taylor and Ryan Clark both retire this last week. The Steelers lose another big piece to their secondary with Ike Taylor leaving. And I say that loosely, I guess, with Troy Polamalu also having left that we talked about last week. And then Ryan Clark leaves as a Steeler. Great safety. Always gave everything to his team. Sucks that he couldn't have finished his career there, but definitely two guys that are now another transition point really for the Steelers. Like we're looking back on what were the great Steelers defenses of basically our generation now. And these two guys are part of that. And Troy Polamalu is part of that. Brett Keil is leaving. Worlds is retiring, and I get that he's brand new, but I mean, it looks like the defense is just drastically different. Dick LeBeau's gone. Looking at this Steelers defense, it has to be something that everybody's worried about. In fact, Neil Coulong from Steelers Wire told me that he's concerned about the defense, but he feels like the offense is going to be able to overcome it, but he's really worried about being in shootouts all the time. This is kind of a new era for them, and one that I don't think that they can overcome. I don't think that they're going to be able to stop the Ravens. I don't think they're going to be able to stop the Bengals, and I know that that's saying a lot considering Andy Dalton has not been great the last year and a half, but
the defenses on those teams are not the kind of defenses you really want to rely on your offense putting 40 points a game on.
True, but you still look at the Steelers. Do you think the Steelers are the type of team who are going to score 50 points every single game?
No.
No, I don't.
No, they're
They're a run-first team.
Yeah.
well, and Le'Veon Bell is super duper amazing, and nobody's going to debate that. But is he really going to be able to carry the load that much? Ben Roethlisberger, super duper amazing, but he's been banged up for years. And he was less banged up last year because of the lack of hits he was taking because they're all going to Bell. But how long can you expect this to keep up, especially if they're constantly on the field, if the defense is constantly just, quick turnover, gave up those points. Fine. Now we're back out there. It's going to be hard to say that the offense is going to be able to be the only thing getting it done. We saw so much of that with Peyton Manning's Colts, and it didn't work out a lot.
Well, they're kind of like the anti-Steelers now, where they used to be kind of like the AFC version of the Bears, only they were successful. They were run first, and they built through defense. That's how they made their reputation. That's how they made their mark in the league. Those championship teams, they were championship teams because they had the number one ranked defense in the NFL in 05 and in 08 when they won those titles. And now we're going to have a defense that's a swinging gate basically. And Ben Roethlisberger's got to throw his way to victory and get 400 yards and 5 touchdowns every week to win a football game. It's not a recipe for success.
Right, and Ben Roethlisberger isn't necessarily the kind of guy that can do that. Like, I know that he's very good, but having him drop back 35 to 40 times.
Do it.
Right, he can, but if you have to have Ben Roethlisberger drop back 35 to 45 times a game, think about that. Look at how badly he gets banged up. And granted, his offensive line might be better now. He's a big guy. He can take the hits. He never comes off the field. He refuses to. He could go out there. He could lose both arms and still completely insist on playing. I get that. But still, the fact is that even if you have a star out there, an injured star isn't going to be much better than having Jay Cutler out there at this point. The offense, can it do it? Sure. Can it do it all year? No way.
No.
Exactly. Like, you can count on Ben to do that a couple of times a year, no problem. But to say this is what you have to do week to week, and by the way, they're counting on that now, and they're going to game plan for that offense to be a high octane shoot to kill kind of thing. That's a very, very different thing to go out there and do it with the defense prepped for it.
It's going to be a rough year for Steelers fans. If they think that they're going to win this division, I think that they really need to sit back and really evaluate their entire thought process on that.
And that's a problem because so many Steelers fans, like, you give them this question and they don't know how to answer it without having that unique Steeler perspective. They're like, no, we're a winning culture. We're used to winning. We'll find out a way to win. And it won't even enter their heads that this could be a massive problem. And they're already like planning their playoff run. Like, you guys, you gotta be at least a little concerned.
Yeah.
Not saying that the sky is falling, but this is a problem.
Let's go on to the incredibly odd thing that happened with the Lions and the Bucks this last week. I don't really know how to classify it. It's part of the whole new CBA restricted free agent thing. Essentially, here's what happened. The Lions have a guy, his name is George Johnson, restricted free agent. Good defensive end. Not great. Haven't seen a whole lot of him. That's why I can't classify him as great. He's good. He had a couple sacks, did some good work for the Lions. He gets signed to an offer sheet by the Bucks. The Bucks submit that offer sheet and the Lions dispute it. The Lions basically state that the Bucks used shady contract language. There were incentives or bonuses of some sort, or the distribution of the contract was going to make it less than what they were actually putting on the offer sheet. So the Lions disputed that. They got 10 extra days and they ended up trading him to the Bucks and got a pick out of it. So I find it weird, but in the end, it just kind of seems like the Lions were kind of whiners about the whole thing, and the Bucks did some shady stuff, whether or not it was intentional, which kind of makes them kind of the dunce of the whole thing.
So
Lovie Smith walked into an area. He thought he was buying Jell-O pudding, and then before you know it, he's picking out players, and he doesn't know where he's at, and so he sends out a pick to make it all fine.
And in other words, the Lions are whiners, the Bucks are stupid, so it's just another day at the office. Because
I was just ripping on Lovie Smith. I thought you guys would want to get in on that. I mean, I know Ron enjoys ripping on Lovie Smith.
In a way, I don't know. Like, it's tough. It's tough because sometimes you look back and you're like, well, he gave us some great years. And then sometimes you look back and you're like, what were you doing with some of your personnel moves? Like, so it's tough. So in this instance, when it comes to personnel moves, I guess he got the guy he wanted, but it it really is. It was a weird situation. I just don't understand it, and nobody has clarified it yet. If anybody else has any insight, we'd love it. Send your emails to us. We'd be glad to hear it.
Lovie Smith is like the kind of guy who gets into an argument and then he wants to leave the room and slam the door behind him, but he accidentally walks into a closet. like that's the dude I imagine when I imagine Lovie Smith.
And I'm not tough on Lovie because when we first hired him, I said he was not a Chicago guy. He's not a Chicago guy because he's not Ditka-esque. He's not going to troll the sidelines. He's not going to get animated or anything like that. So he's not really one of those Chicago guys, but he worked out way better than the other non-Chicago guys that we've hired since Ditka left town. And it's just, so I kind of have somewhat of a soft spot for Lovie because he worked out way better than I ever imagined he could have.
Nothing enrages a Bears fan more than talking about the Dick Duran years.
Or even Dave Wannstedt, for that matter.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
Well, yeah, but you guys are all crazy because you hold Ditka up on this pedestal when you really should be going, why didn't you get us more championships? Oh, yeah, that's right, because you were an ass to the players and they all started to hate you.
Well, that might be the case, but there was a lot more going on, I think, there. I mean, especially when you look at like the whole
I know, but my point
thing
is, like, everybody else gets hated on and Ditka gets a pass a lot of the time.
That's true. I mean, that's true.
All you have to do is compare what Ditka did to what everyone else has done. And yeah, we should have won probably 3 or 4 championships in the late half of the 80s and early 90s and such. But Ditka was coach for 10 years. He went to the playoffs 7 times, and we have not been to the playoffs 7 times in the 25 years since he left. So
that's true. That's true.
That's why Ditka is held up high, and those other guys are like, get that bastard out of town.
And you never know. I mean,
John Fox could end up the game.
Like John Fox could end up being that guy. I mean, that takes us to the playoffs 3 or 4 of the next, 7 or 8 seasons, and people are going to start not necessarily forgetting about Ditka because no one's ever going to forget about that Super Bowl team, but it's going to ease it off a little bit, especially if we start getting there, because I mean, it's just been so long since we've had sustained success with the Bears, and so it's going to be different. And well,
you guys aren't going to know what to do with success once you have it again. Like it's gonna be like with a puppy. Like, that there's a potential for things to go wrong, but you don't want to say anything.
just like the sentence you just said, there's potential for things to go wrong, is the exact thought that came into my head when you made that analogy just off the top. Puppy's like, there's no way this is going to turn out okay. There's just no way.
Well, that's you have no idea how much editing I do. All right, so let's move on. Let's talk a little Adrian Peterson finally getting reinstated as of Friday, April 17th. Question is, for you guys, is he still going to be a Viking next year?
I just told you he's going to be on the Patriots. Why do you even need to do this?
Well, for those of us,
but no, there's too much bad blood.
Yeah, it's exactly. But if you listen to Zimmer, the head coach of the Vikings, he's absolutely going to be wearing purple next year.
Well, there was a lot of talk earlier in the year where they were talking, well, we own the rights to him, and if he doesn't want to play football, he's not going to play football for anybody else, so he'll have to retire. And I guess I didn't really understand that, because if somebody wants Adrian Peterson that bad, somebody's going to give up a first-round pick for him. And you could easily use that first-round pick to go after another running back in the draft, which is very plentiful this year.
Yeah.
There's a few good ones, yeah. I mean, maybe not of his level, but still.
And don't you think at this point a good clean separation from the whole thing would just be good for the Vikings, really?
I think it would be good for everybody.
He was out there ripping on Ray Rice, and how come he gets to be back in the league and I don't? Well, Ray Rice, he didn't just apologize. He's on an apology tour where he's going like city to city and going, you guys, I'm really sorry. And very aware what he did was wrong, very aware he was not the victim, very aware of all the various external implications, whereas Adrian Peterson through the whole thing has acted like a whiny child who needs a whooping, which is ironic and funny.
I don't understand why they would want to hang on to him. I guess if I was top brass with the Vikings, I would definitely say, all right, fine. You don't want to be here, fine. You know what I would do? The first person I'd call up is I would get a hold of me some Jacksonville Jaguars or some Oakland Raiders or,
the Raiders are on the list from the last article I read. It was the Raiders and Cowboys that are most interested in Adrian Peterson.
And Cardinals.
Right. I mean, and they're not going to trade. If I'm a team, if I'm the general manager of an NFL team and I have a star player who's not happy, he wants to get traded, I'm not going to trade him to another team in the conference that is already decent. I'm not going to do that. Why would I trade Adrian Peterson if I'm sitting at the top at the Vikings office and I'm going, you know what? I think I should trade him to Dallas Cowboys. No, why would you do that? That's a team you're going to have to eventually compete for should you make the playoffs. And that's a direct competitor. I would send him to like the Browns and let him suffer.
Well, right now they're doing the same thing that the Bengals did with Carson Palmer. Like, yeah, we're committed to this. And they gotta stick to their guns on this one and let everybody know that they're serious, because everybody's just waiting for them to crack and release him, or waiting for them to crack and lower the price. And when we get a little bit closer to the regular season, everybody's going to go, oh, geez, they are not screwing around. And then legitimate offers are going to come in. People are going to wait until after the draft, see what they can get, see what falls to them, and then they'll start making offers for him. I don't think before.
I think that the whole thing's kind of been mishandled from the beginning, and I think it's going to continue to be mishandled until he's on a new team.
I want him. I don't want anybody to pick him up. He's been incredibly difficult throughout this whole process, just throwing blame everywhere but at himself. And when you start going, it's your fault, I'm not playing. No, that's completely removing yourself from any wrongdoing in this. And maybe it's just my own personal hang up, but it's like you put a straight up beating on a child. Like, that's assault, man. You can't expect everybody to just forget about that one.
And we actually had a few emails about the whole thing as well. I picked out the top 5. We had 7 emails about it, and they were all great. So thank you to all those who emailed about this topic. I appreciate you guys doing that, chiming in after I had posted on Facebook about it. But first one we had was from Erica, who's in Minneapolis, and she said that as a mother and as a child development coordinator, which I'm guessing is kind of like daycare type thing. She said, seeing these types of injuries on a child is devastating to not only me as a mother, but also to me as a child development coordinator. I can't imagine anybody letting him play football again, ever. And that's kind of the sentiment from that side of the fence. We also had a email from Tyler. He said, if it was up to me, the guy would get his lashings repeatedly every day until the end of his days, which that's obviously your opinion. And that kind of seems to be the sentiment for the
FBI. Search his computer, FBI, do it.
That you get some people that are on the other side of the fence who said the guy made a mistake. He's not going to do it again. Let's let him play football. This is a personal matter. This shouldn't be included into what is going to be his job. This is something that happened off the field in an offseason that has nothing to do with him being a running back in the NFL. And we also got an email from Doug, who said pretty much the same thing, that if it was his employee, he runs a construction company. He says, if it was my employee and I found out my employee had gotten arrested for child abuse, and it was because of an issue where he disciplined his child, and it was determined that the discipline was too extreme, but he realized that it was an issue and he's taking the steps to correct it, which we're going to get to that in a second, because I know what your guys' opinions are going to be on this, you guys. But he said, if this guy had come in to me and said, I have been arrested for child abuse, I was disciplining my child, somebody thought it was too extreme, that's not their call, this is my call. He said, that's not something I'm going to fire them for. Am I going to be concerned about it? Yes. Am I going to fire somebody? No, I'm not even going to suspend him. I'm going to let them play out whatever the entire situation is going to be until conclusion. He's like, and then I'll make my judgment at that point. The NFL didn't do that. The NFL does guilty until proven innocent, and they will continue to do so, and it's only going to get worse. So that's his sentiment on the whole thing. Larry, I know that you kind of want to jump in on this. Go ahead.
Yeah, those last 2 guys are idiots, both of them, especially the last guy, and here's why. The whole thing about the construction employee and, and all that kind of stuff. Your construction employee is also not being looked upon as a role model, setting an example for all the other construction employees in the world. It's, and the other thing is, as we've said before, Adrian Peterson hasn't come forth to say that he has any remorse for what he's done. and the fact of the matter is he's just, honestly, as I don't have kids, at least not yet anyway, none of my own, but I grew up and I got spankings from my parents, but they never left bruises and lashes and hit me with foreign objects or anything like that. So I'm not against corporal punishment. I'm not against him disciplining his kids. I'm against him beating the crap out of his kid like he did and not having any remorse for it. That I have a huge problem with. And those guys saying that, well, it's separate from him being a football player. No, it isn't. Obviously, it didn't happen on the field, but Adrian Peterson, the football player, the father, it's all the same guy. And I have a huge problem with anybody who just wants to turn a blind eye to it.
It's really disturbing, too. I mean, the fact that people are, like, going to put football ahead of a kid, like, hey, it's a personal matter. That argument's flat out dumb. So, I mean, like, it was considered a personal matter when Aaron Hernandez shot his friend in the face and then dumped the dude out the car. Now, guy lived and he loses vision in an eye, but then decides not to press charges because he got paid hush money. So, if the same thing happened, like, oh no, it's his thing. How long until Adrian Peterson beats a kid so hard that that kid can't walk again? Or until that kid's face is permanently disfigured or is dead?
Right.
And again, with that construction company, like, that's such a okay, now let's say dude beats his kid and now he's doing it while outside wearing your construction company's, t-shirt and the media's there and now it's in all the papers. What, you're going to keep him? What if it's pedophilia? Like, I mean, you're going to go ahead and make us draw these arbitrary lines? It's ridiculous. Yeah. He did something incredibly wrong. And like with Ray Rice, I think for the most part, are willing to forgive. We're willing to look the other way. I think if he hadn't had his worst career in the NFL right before, he'd be playing right now. But Ray Rice did this almost exactly right. And, he's been apologizing like crazy and he understands his wrongdoing. Adrian Peterson has never come even close to that. And it's just made him impossible to like. I honestly would be fine with the Vikings saying, we're going to keep his contract. We will franchise tag him year after year until we know he can't play and he will never see the field because we are doing it just to spite him. I'd be totally fine with that because that would be very funny.
And another thing to consider here is that when they released the report and their decision as to why they were going to suspend him, why everything was going down the way it was, the one thing that stuck out to me was when Adrian Peterson decided to use the switch against his child, it became a weapon because due to Adrian Peterson's size, he is no small guy. This isn't a tiny guy. This isn't a regular, this is Adrian Peterson. He is a professional athlete. He's one of the strongest, the fittest, the fastest people in the entire world. I mean, that's what he does for a living. So for him to use that strength and that speed against a 4-year-old child makes that in itself a weapon. I mean, just his attributes alone.
Well, I mean, it's not even fair for him to use those attributes against a regular person, let alone a 4-year-old child.
Right.
I've got a 4-year-old daughter, and just like the thought of it, like Larry said, there's a difference between spanking and hitting. Nobody's saying you can't spank your kids, right. But when you start to go ahead and say, this is moving beyond teaching a lesson. That's why our parents spanked us, to teach a lesson. Hey, that's dangerous. Don't do that. Hey, you got to listen to me. You got to follow the rules. Don't do that. Nobody's like, I don't feel you respected me. You're not going to walk right for the next week. No, you don't do that. Yeah. And that's what this guy's doing. I mean, like you said, I don't care. Your parents hit you with the switch. That's, back in the day, we didn't let people of a certain color in certain areas. That was wrong too. We got to move forward as a society at times. Sorry about the reality check.
It's horrible, and it continues to be a horrible situation. A lot of people, especially the people that emailed in, especially the commenters we've had, has stated that even people I know that are Packers fans and Bears fans, and fans of any team for that matter, have said that they really, really liked Adrian Peterson as a player. They respected him. They liked what he stood for. And now all of that respect is gone, and that'll continue to be gone, and probably for the rest of his career. And in fact, might prevent him from being a Hall of Fame player. And that's one thing that nobody has talked about yet. This is going to probably prevent him from ever getting in the Hall of Fame, despite the fact that he is an amazing running back and has had Hall of Fame careers statistically, and it's devastating to him and his legacy completely.
Well, I think
And to go to that first comment that the lady had, about, hey, education professionals, I think we saw the correct answer as to what should have happened through the masterpiece of cinema that is Kindergarten Cop. Arnold Schwarzenegger needs to fly out and punch him in the face.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
I think that Peterson can get himself into the Hall of Fame if he does get his head screwed on straight and does his little Ray Rice apology tour as well. At some point, it doesn't have to be now, because apparently he's not feeling it now, and it doesn't have to be anytime during his career. But if he's serious about wanting to get into the Hall of Fame, that at some point he's going to have to apologize for what he did.
I don't think so. I think that the only way he gets into the Hall of Fame at this point is if he has, and this is going to be tough this late in his career, he'd have to have like back-to-back, possibly another back of LaDainian Tomlinson type seasons. Like he'd have to have just outlandishly amazing seasons from this point forward, at least in the next 2 to 3 years, to even be considered for Hall of Fame. Because I just don't think that people are going to put him in the Hall of Fame. Just like I don't think they're never going to put Darren Sharper in the Hall of Fame. And that's an extreme comparison. But when you look at it, do you think that a panel is going to say, yeah, we're going to put Adrian Peterson in the Hall of Fame over, let's say, are they going to put Adrian Peterson in the Hall of Fame over Matt Forte?
Yes.
I mean, statistically, you would say yes, but character-wise, would you say yes? Could you honestly?
Well, I mean, and that's the thing about the Hall of Fame. It's like character and outside football stuff is supposed to be left out of it. That's how Lawrence Taylor got into the Hall of Fame. Because he was a cokehead scumbag for all those years, but in the NFL, he was the sack machine, one of the greatest defensive players ever, so he's in the Hall of Fame.
Well, a lot of his destructiveness was more self-destructive, and so it's easier for people to ignore. And there was also not the same media coverage. So, there's a difference between a dude just doing cocaine like crazy and partying way too hard, and a dude who calls himself Purple Jesus, whooping the hell out of a kid and leaving welts on, a 4-year-old's testicles, as we've seen with Adrian Peterson. I think he'd have to eclipse another terrible running back human being in the fact that he'd have to beat OJ's record and to even have a shot at this point, because I'm with you. He's done amazing and it's impossible to deny his production, but he's definitely a butthole, and it's going to be really hard for years and years and years. I mean, everybody gets up in front of the panel and, hey, here's my case for this guy. And then everybody voting is going to be like, you either bring it up and make it seem like it's no big deal, or you bring it up and remind us how much we hate him for it. And it's going to be hard to look the other way at that point.
What record does OJ have?
Single season rushing yards, doesn't he?
Eric Dickerson. Yeah.
Whatever, Eric Dickerson, OJ. I wanted to make the joke about OJ, and you just messed it up with your facts, you jackass.
I was like, what record does OJ have? What did I miss? It's like, okay.
I was hoping I could sneak something in there, and then no. Whatever, Eric Dickerson sucked too. Or maybe that's just a Colts bias against him because he was a whiner for the Colts. But
O.J. Simpson, longest record for driving the wrong way on the interstate.
There you go.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, okay. Adrian Peterson, do that.
All right, guys, well, we have beaten that one in, so let's go on to the...
Beat it just like Adrian Peterson.
Well, I'm glad I get to edit that out.
You softballed that one in there. What do you want me to do?
Well, not do that.
I don't know why you have to edit that. That's just you I mean, you set me up. What do you think my brain's going to do? Not force my mouth to say those words? That's not how I operate. You know that.
I need to get you some professional help. All right, let's go on to the Phillip Rivers trade talks, because this has become something that I read an article about almost every single day. Whether it be Phillip Rivers to the Browns, or Phillip Rivers to the Titans, or Phillip Rivers to the Bears, or Phillip Rivers to wherever Phillip Rivers could go. The fact, in my opinion, is he still is a father with 7 kids and a wife, and I don't think he's going to want to uproot them and move them.
Wasn't that the whole biz of him not wanting to play again for the Chargers? Was like he didn't want to go to L.A., and I mean, like, it's because, like you said, he's got a giant family because he's super duper Catholic, and he's
yeah,
well, he is. I mean, it's not a negative,
I know.
But yeah, he doesn't want to uproot them because then it's giant pain. 7 kids. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, the money helps, but there's a limit.
Yeah, and really, Larry and I were talking about this before the show. The way I look at it is that he's not going to want to uproot them no matter what happens. If the team isn't going to stay in San Diego, he's not going to go anywhere. I think he'll retire. I don't think he'll want to, but I don't think he'll want to move his whole family unless they're moving back home to North Carolina. That's it.
Right, and the Panthers is not an option in this.
Right.
Even in the wildest scenarios, there's no Cam Newton for Phillip Rivers trade talks going on there, and Phillip Rivers is still too top flight of a quarterback to go to Carolina to back up Cam Newton. He's not in the twilight of his career yet. He's still got a good 3-4 years left at least for Phillip Rivers. So for those. I mean, if it comes down to it, then I guess that's, what it will be as far as, then the question becomes, and will he be able to be away from his family for 4 or 5 months while he's in Tennessee or Cleveland or, Philadelphia, God forbid, or wherever he may end up if a move is made.
Right. And you're talking about Phillip Rivers for Cam Newton. I mean, the only way I could see something like that going down, and this is because now we're going to speculate because everybody else gets to speculate, and I think we should be allowed to speculate too. So we're going to speculate
it all the time.
Yeah, well, we're going to do it even more. So if there's going to be a Cam Newton kind of trade to the Chargers, which I highly, highly, highly doubt, it would have to kind of be in this, not this next year, but the following year when his contract is close to being up. Like, there's going to be extension talks. They're going to have to finally pay Cam Newton, and he's going to get a lot of money. And if the Panthers don't want to give all that, they could essentially trade Cam Newton to the Chargers, get Phillip Rivers next year. He'll move home, finish his career with the Panthers, do that while they go out and they draft the next QB that's going to be their guy. Ron Rivera's the coach there. That would be the kind of quarterback that he'd actually want there to play the run first, accurate guy that plays well under pressure and is the kind of guy that'll pump his offense up.
The thing that I think all of this has to come back to and ground itself out into a little bit of reality is, what is Phillip Rivers truly worth versus what is his perceived worth? And I mean, if you're the Chargers GM, you're in that terrible situation where you got to get him to another contract. You got to deal with the possibility of moving the team. I don't think they're moving. I think it's all a ploy to get a new stadium, but they're moving forward like they're going to Los Angeles, whatever, fine. The fans think he's worth a certain amount. Other people think he's worth a certain amount. Can you get fair market value for him in his current tenuous contract situation? I don't know if you can. You talk to Chargers fans, you read the forums on their pages, they're like, we need 3 first-round picks. Never going to happen. He's not worth it. Even 2 first-round picks, that's a kingly sum to give up for that guy who's only got this year left on contract. It's the sort of thing where what are you going to be willing to give up for Phillip Rivers anyway? I mean, what do you guys think he's even worth?
I know in the trade scenario that I read most recently, and this is the one that I was talking to Ron about, was I read Hub Arkush, who covers the Bears in Chicago, wrote about a Phillip Rivers for Jay Cutler trade. Now, I don't remember if he was saying that it was straight up. I don't think anyone would agree if that should be a straight up trade, but I think that those are along the lines of the kind of trade you'd be looking at with Phillip Rivers. It's going to be Phillip Rivers for somebody else and maybe a pick thrown in there, or maybe the pick and another body, or, it's another person, to kind of sweeten the deal kind of thing. I don't see it for, being Phillip Rivers for draft picks.
Well, the other thing you look at, and going back to him being a father of 7 and stuff, is this guy really gonna take his whole family to Chicago? Is this guy gonna take his family to the Jets? Is this guy gonna take his family, anywhere that, for one, is much colder than where he lives now? Let's go ahead and throw that out there. But 2, a more volatile market. I mean, what kind of criticism does Phillip Rivers get right now with the Chargers? What kind?
He's a jackass.
Well, other than him being kind of a jerk and a rah kind of guy, outside of that, Chargers fans love him. Why? Because he's a good quarterback, and they struggled for a long time without one. And so now
he does a great job of eating the roving homeless population of San Diego.
I don't even know what to do with that. Thank you. All right. But if you go to a market like Chicago or New York or Cleveland, anywhere like that, you are going to be under the microscope. Who wants to deal with that? Who wants to deal with that as a person? And then who as a wife or family member wants to deal with that being your husband or father or anything like that? No one wants to deal with that. So like there's just no way that he goes anywhere.
I think the problem is that in almost every one of these trade scenarios, you have Phillip Rivers going someplace that really no one would want to go. No one wants to go to Tennessee because I don't see Tennessee getting any better anytime soon. So why would Phillip Rivers want to spend the twilight of his career playing for one of the worst franchises in the NFL? Why would he want to go to the Jets when I think they hired the wrong guy as their new head coach? I still think they're years away from contending because they're going to be paying for that mistake for the next 3 or 4 years at least. Why would you want to go, to Chicago? I mean, obviously I'm a huge Bears fan and I would love to see Phillip Rivers in Chicago. It would be a much more stable quarterback than Jay Cutler, but it's still so up in the air and what the defense is going to be and all that kind of stuff. There's just too many question marks on all these trade partners. Why would Phillip Rivers want to go to any of these places?
Let's be honest right now. His best chances of winning a Super Bowl are where he's at right now. Anywhere he goes from this point would greatly diminish because no team that is ready to go to the Super Bowl is going to be trading for Phillip Rivers. So
everybody who's got a legitimate shot already has their guy.
Right. If after this season, he's like, all right, I've got 4 years of good football left in me. I want to get paid as much money as I can. And he goes, I'm just going to go to the Titans. I'll move my family to North Carolina. They'll be there. I'll be in Tennessee. It's a quick flight at the end of the day or at the, on Wednesdays, whatever, back to home to spend some time with the family. That's probably, honestly, his best bet is to go to Tennessee. I mean,
that's
family-wise.
actually, yeah. I mean, when you kind of frame it that way, is he really somebody you can see, given the current breakdown of NFL teams, given the current playoff picture, if you look ahead, is he really in a good position to win a Super Bowl? It's kind of an outside looking in. Like you could see him making the playoffs, maybe winning a game. I don't see him taking out the entire AFC and then whoever the NFC can throw up. I mean, I don't see him being able to defeat the Packers or the Seahawks or, I just don't see it happening. So yeah, he's probably better off just collecting that paycheck and doing what he can. I mean, unless he thinks he has a great shot at the Hall of Fame and he needs to stick with his team and just continue to be as excellent as he can be, try and get that jacket and whatnot. Yeah, fine. But he's in a hard place right now, no matter how you slice it. It is a difficult position to be in.
He doesn't have a Hall of Fame shot, and I don't think so. I think he just, and that's unfortunate.
I don't think so either, but
he's good, but he just happens to be in the same generation that Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers are all in, and I just don't think he'll make the Hall of Fame because of that. I think, and if he does, he's going to be one of those guys that's inducted when he's like in his 70s or whatever. So I mean, it's just going to be one of those things where he's not going to be a first ballot, a fifth ballot, or a 20th ballot. He would have to be. He would wait a really long time to get in. But anyway, you guys, we got to shift on to another quarterback that hasn't played since 2012, Tim Tebow. Tonight was reportedly signed by the Eagles. Was going to sign his contract on Monday, a 1-year deal. Adam Schefter reported that the Eagles were trying to trade Matt Barkley before the signing, and so he joins a crowded QB roster that is led technically right now by Sam Bradford, includes Mark Sanchez, and has Matt Barkley in there as well. Your thoughts, Larry?
I'm over Tim Tebow. I am so over this guy. I thought we were done with him. I honestly thought we were done with Tim Tebow. And I thought that the whole tryout with the Eagles a few weeks ago was his swan song. This was his last shot. The Eagles didn't take the bait. So now he goes off and can continue to work for the SEC network and be the happy, smiley guy in college where he belongs, not messing around in the NFL. Now, unless Chip Kelly has convinced him and screwed his head on straight about not being a quarterback because he's built like a tight end and he's a fantastic athlete, unless that's what we're looking at, we're just wasting our time here.
a very confusing thing, to say the least. I mean, if you want to be that guy and be like, oh, now that you have the power of Christ on your side, nothing can defeat you. Yeah, I mean, there's that guy. He's happy, but everybody else is going, why? I mean, we were pissed off enough about Sam Bradford. Now I'm pretty sure that it's going to come out that Chip Kelly is like a lifelong Giants fan, and he's been trolling the Eagles from the inside out.
Oh, wow. Like the biggest setup ever.
I mean, like just imagine that. Like, he just comes out one day when it's fired and just rips open his shirt like, I love New York. What's up? Peace, bitches. I'm out. And just like, everybody's like, so how do we even evaluate his time here? Like, he almost made the playoffs, but I mean, like, what do you do with that information?
Like, it could end up being like the biggest SNL skit setup ever of like, one time he was in Philadelphia and he had a chance to meet the owner of the Eagles, and he was a complete jerk to him. So he was like, he made it his life's mission just to destroy them from that day forward, to include him becoming a great college football coach to an NFL coach.
to add to your point, Ron, you bring up an excellent point, and using my amazing wizard brain again, I'm going to point out, when did Chip Kelly start becoming prominent? Right at the supposed death of Chris Farley. Look a little too similar for this to be just a 1-to-1. No, they murdered the real Chip Kelly, supplanted Chris Farley, and this has just been a 20-year trolling process.
I hate you right now. I do. I don't.
Yeah.
So this is actually one thing that we brought up earlier, and Kyle and I had discussed, was that if Tim Tebow was going to find a team, though, that he was going to be a quarterback on and was going to be even remotely successful given his play style and his abilities and his deficiencies, it was going to be the Eagles, because the system they play is favorable to his style of quarterback play. I guess what I'm getting at is Chip Kelly can build a offense around him, and I think this is an insurance policy, to be honest. I think that if they don't go out, if they're not able to get Mariota and however they're trying to do it, Tim Tebow could essentially end up being a guy they really actually take a serious look at, to being the guy to run that kind of offense. Because we all know at this point, Sam Bradford is not the guy to run the offense that he wants to run. One, it requires too much mobility from a quarterback, which is why Nick Foles isn't there anymore. And Sam Bradford has a glass body. He's not going to be the guy there, I don't think. I think that if he is able to get Mariota, Sam Bradford's on his way to Cleveland. And Mark Sanchez is just the guy that fills in and says, good job, pats everybody on the butt as they come to the sideline, and fills in when the quarterback that Chip Kelly hangs out to dry in his offense gets murdered on the football field. I can't imagine that Sam Bradford's going to be the guy, and I think that this is actually a really favorable spot for Tim Tebow to be in.
He can't be worse than Matt Barkley. I mean, he can't. He's had moments where people were like, wow, maybe he can do it. I mean, those moments were usually after about 55 minutes of absolutely head-scratchingly terrible play, but they were there. They happened. So, yeah, like you said, it's a good fit in theory. We'll see what happens in training camp. It's hard to completely hate the move, at least in terms of it works to Tebow's skill set. And they're just kind of collecting quarterbacks there now. So I still think they're going to find some way to end up with Mariota out there, and Tebow would be a pretty decent backup for Mariota.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at here. So Larry's done with it. So I guess,
yep.
That's he doesn't even want to talk about Tebow. He just
nope.
Yeah. We have a little bit of time before we go forward, so I actually am going to do a little bit of fun with you guys. I want to do a little what's more likely with you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you guys a question, and then I'll tell you who's going to go first to answer, and then you guys will kind of give me what you think is more likely to happen, and it's going to be fun. So here we go. Number 1. Johnny Manziel starts 5 games, or the Browns draft a QB in the first round for the 3rd straight year. Which one's more likely to happen? Kyle.
It's 3rd straight year? Really?
Yep.
Wow. I got to imagine that they give him 5 games. I mean, he's still worth something in theory, so you're better off giving him a chance at least and proving that he's terrible. He started 2 games and only finished one of them, so you got to give him at least a little more time. I mean, I don't expect anything to come of it, but they obviously took the flyer out on him, taking him 22 overall. You don't take a guy 22 overall and give him 1 3/4 games.
Larry, Phillip Rivers gets traded to the Browns, or the Bears finally find a taker for Jay Cutler.
Oh, well, I would have to go with the Bears finding a taker for Jay Cutler. I just don't see that. I don't see that happening with Phillip Rivers. I don't.
All right, for both of you, the 49ers win their division or the Packers do not.
I'm going to say it's probably more likely that the Packers don't. I mean, there's not necessarily a huge contender against the Packers, but the amount of things that would have to go wrong across all 3 other NFC West teams to let the 49ers win. I mean, I'm kind of assuming that we're getting a reemergence of smallpox for that to happen.
Yeah, the NFC West is hell on earth right now with the Rams coming up the way they have, Arizona and Seattle. It is more likely that Detroit, Minnesota, or Chicago will finish ahead of Green Bay than San Francisco will finish ahead of any of those teams.
Yeah, I mean, you only need Aaron Rodgers to go down with an injury. You don't need the risen Christ to return or anything like that, like you would for San Fran.
So next one up is Sam Bradford plays the whole year, or Derek Carr leads his team to their first playoff berth in over a decade.
I would go with Derek Carr on that one.
Yeah, Derek Carr all day.
Really? You guys think
Yes.
that, huh? You think, no love for Sam Bradford at all.
Well, I'm sorry, but I have a ability to realize what happened over the past 5 years, and it turns out that he's made out of cardboard. I mean, he's probably more than likely just a fathead, wall decal that's somehow ambulatory. That's it.
He's also being coached by Chip Kelly, who, what do they got, like 5-6 quarterbacks on the roster? Now you get a bad half out of Sam Bradford. Somebody else is coming in. So I don't see him being that guy that's going to, just stick with Sam Bradford blindly and let him start all 16 games if he's not playing well.
So Kyle, Tom Brady wins another Super Bowl to go back-to-back and then retires, or Peyton Manning wins another MVP and then retires.
That's actually a pretty tough one.
Yeah.
I think if it wasn't for the Tom Brady retiring at the end of winning back-to-back, I'd pick that one all day. I just don't think that he could win back-to-back and then retire, because he's having way too much fun being a cocky butthole right now, going around, everything has the number 5 on it right now. And I swear to God, snipers, what are you doing? Take the shot. So now that I got myself good and worked up, yeah, Peyton Manning. Somebody's got to do something. Come on, ISIS, let's go.
All right, Larry, I have one for you, and this is a good one. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
Lovie Smith wins Coach of the Year,
Oh, God.
or Todd Bowles coaches his team to a division title.
What's the third option?
You really do not like Todd Bowles.
I am not a fan. I mean, I think, and I talked to Ron about this, or we were actually kind of messaging back and forth about it, actually, was I think that the Jets screwed up in a big way when they hired Todd Bowles. I do not think he's a head coach. I just don't think he's head coach material. I think he's Wade Phillips reborn. I think he's an awesome coordinator. When he's handling one side of the football field, and he is the man and he is the disciplinary. He gets his ships are all sailing in the right direction. When he's taken off of that one task and now he's got to manage a whole football team, I think it's a house of cards, and it's just going to come crumbling down on top of him. So, I just don't think Todd Bowles is going to be successful.
Well, I'll give you all that, but given the option, Lovie Smith being head coach of the year or Todd Bowles taking the team to a division victory, I mean, you got to take down the Patriots, and I understand that means we're looking at, the Vikings screwing up, and you could say whatever Tannehill and Ndamukong Suh doesn't do his thing, and the Bills, Rex Ryan, and now you got to look at the Patriots. Okay, the only way that's going to work out is if Van Helsing comes out of retirement and goes ahead and fights evil that is Bill Belichick with the crucifix and the garlic and the holy water. And so I'd say that is more likely. Van Helsing being real and murdering Bill Belichick is more likely than Lovie Smith winning Coach of the Year.
You know what? And actually, all right. So let's backpedal then. Logically, Lovie Smith will win Coach of the Year before Todd Bowles. It was a playoff berth, right?
Division title.
Division. Oh no, that's definitely not happening. No, Lovie Smith will win Coach of the Year because in retrospect, it's really not that hard to win Coach of the Year. How many Coach of the Years in recent memory have won the Super Bowl? So Lovie Smith doesn't really have to do a whole lot to get Coach of the Year, to be honest. Okay. He's in the NFC South, one of the weakest divisions in football. He's as low as you can get at 2-14 in his first year. If he goes 10-6 and makes the playoffs, he's a Coach of the Year candidate just on that alone. So I would say that is way more likely than Todd Bowles winning the division.
All right.
That's actually a pretty good case against my whole Van Helsing creatures of the night argument.
Next up, I have the Chiefs go 2 full seasons without a wide receiver touchdown, or the Panthers win a 3rd straight division title, which would be only 5 teams have ever done that.
I would go with the Panthers.
You got to go with the Panthers. The last time a team went without a wide receiver touchdown was the 64 Giants. It does not happen. And they're going to go aggressive in the draft. You have to go Panthers.
All right, so Chip Kelly is holding the Lombardi Trophy by 2016, or Fast and Furious 7 wins an Academy Award.
Ooh.
I'm going to go with the Chip Kelly thing. I mean,
yeah.
You're saying that like it's a hard decision. Fast and Furious 7. I mean, I'm assuming that this is all about like dudes and like slightly homoerotic glances at each other, and the cars are all metaphors for their genitals and all that. And you're trying to go ahead and act like that's more plausible for the Academy, a whole bunch of white weirdos saying, yeah, this is art, as opposed to Chip Kelly. Come on, man. He's a douche. He's not that big a douche.
Fastest movie to $1 billion ever.
Okay, so that's an indicator of artistic merit? We're going to put this up on the same pedestal as 12 Years a Slave. Really? Fast and Furious friggin' 7. Yeah, no, good question, jackass. Unbelievable.
He's only saying that because Vin Diesel's guaranteed that Fast 7 was going to win, or excuse me, Furious 7 was going to win the best picture.
Yeah, that's why I put it in there.
Well, if he did it, then that means he's got, a knife in a whole lot of people's back. And then, hey, Vin Diesel, why don't you go ahead and guarantee the next Riddick movie while you're at it? Can't wait for that nail biter.
All right. Let's see here. I think that, we had one user submitted, one here. Zach Mettenberger makes the Pro Bowl as a vote-in, or Ken Wisenhunt makes the Pro Bowl as a coach.
Well, to make the Pro Bowl as a coach, you have to be one of the division round coaches.
Yep.
Right.
So it used to be you were the losing conference championship coach, but since they're played right after the conference championship, those guys don't do it anymore. So that means that Ken Wisenhunt has to, in the most likely scenario, has to at least win one playoff game and make it to the divisional round. Oh man.
Yeah, you would have to be, what is it, the highest ranking, or the highest seeded team eliminated in the divisional round. So looking at the talent on their roster, that's mathematically impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, Zach Mettenberger, he hasn't been good, but there's theories of potential at least.
Yeah, stranger things have happened than Zach Mettenberger making the Pro Bowl, so I would have to go with that being the more likely scenario.
All right, so lastly, we have what's more likely, the Oakland Raiders move to the NFC West or the Chargers move to the NFC West in the event that the stadium is built and they do have to share.
This is like what we were talking about with Lori, and I mean, it's very speculative either way, but I get the feeling that it would be probably easier to move the Chargers only because you don't want to have to deal with the Davis family and all their nonsense that they go on about. It'd just be easier to talk to the Chargers guy and be like, look, we're moving one of the two of you. You don't have to deal with some of this stuff. Just do us a solid and we'll get you back in some way. If I'm Roger Goodell, I just want to minimize having to use my brain, and I just go away from arguing with the Davis family.
I would vote San Diego, but I think the more intriguing question is, who do you swap them with?
I think, honestly, if they're going to move anybody and swap them, it's probably going to be the Rams, because I just don't think with the recent success of the 49ers, the success that the Cardinals are currently having, and the success that the Seahawks are having, that they would move any of them out of their division. I think that they would take the worst team from the NFC West and move them out, considering they're already moving to LA already. And they would probably, I think they'll swap the Raiders, because it just makes the most sense. If you're going to take the bad team from one division, you take the bad team from the other and swap them.
It is the most logical, but
but I also think you have a valid point. Nobody would want to deal with the media frenzy that would come with, aggravating the Davis family.
That's the only, and that's highly speculative at that. I think you would get more interest generated out of moving the Chargers, and it would allow them to be a little more relevant. If you move the Raiders, everybody knows, all right, you're just moving the garbage cans from the left side of the road to the right. You're not doing anything all that different.
Right.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to have to wrap us up. We're going to have to take off here. We have gone a little bit over time, but not too bad. So let's start with thanks to Nick Wright, our producer. He is going to be going through this and hopefully fixing all the terrible things that Keil says. That's mostly me, but I mean, Nick does a lot of really great stuff for us too.
You act like it's not entertaining. It's entertaining as hell.
Also, thank you to all of our sponsors, Amazon.com, Audible.com, also NatureBox. Go check out our website, click our sponsor links, do all that. Go to footballisamerica.com/naturebox, footballisamerica.com/Amazon, audibletrial.com/FBIA podcast, or Football is America. One of those two will help us out as well. We want to also thank our listeners. Hey, thank you for tuning in or streaming in or however you want to call it. We appreciate all that. Also, thank you to our military. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us, defending the country. We're big supporters and come home safe. Obviously, that's a big part of our show. We appreciate your fandom and all the downloads and all the support we get from you guys. I'd say that at least 60% of our comments and emails are from guys that are currently or former military members. Also, don't forget you can email us, Ron at footballisamerica.com, Keil, Keil, at footballisamerica.com, or you can just email on the website by clicking the contact form, going through there. You can also catch us on Facebook, Twitter. All of our links are up there. Don't forget to send us those emails and comments. Those are the big things. And I'll be posting the new topic for discussion tomorrow, and that will be for next week's show. Lastly, thank you to Larry. Larry, thanks so much for joining us and being our guest today.
I had fun, guys.
Outstanding. Even though we had some breaks, Keil has daddy duty today. So
yep.
we definitely had some fun. And
cookie demands, and we had a boo-boo on the thumb, and we had to deliver pizza and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, there's plenty going on today.
Thank God that my kid is a well-behaved kid, and I can pretty much just be like, all right, Daddy's going to be busy. Can you sit here and not get into trouble? And she'll say yes and mean it. So I'm very fortunate in that regard. A lot of parents don't know how you could do that. I got lucky.
Or she just can't stand you, and she appreciates these long breaks.
No, I can't even play into the joke.
Talk about softballs. You threw that one out there for me. Man. I just had to.
Slam dunk home run.
I mean, well, yeah, but like I can't even. Like the thing is, because my kid, I'm the favorite parent because, like, my wife just goes right to yelling because she doesn't know how to talk to people or use emotion properly, and I'll be the one going, well, why don't you talk to her and explain that the noise she's making is irritating and why it's irritating. And then I'll be the one like, hey, Emily, could you not make that noise because we're trying to talk and I can't hear you. Okay, Daddy. And then no more noise. So I'm the favorite parent because I suck less.
All right. Well,
I still suck. I mean, for crying out loud, like I know what I'm doing. I just know that kids hate being talked to like they're kids. So I talk to them like they're adults and they love it.
All right, well, that's going to wrap us up. Hey, guys, thank you so much. And for all of you listening, check out the website and take care. Have a good night.
Thank you to everybody. Mike, we'll get you on next time. Thanks for keeping us safe.